What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at the first few companions in Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. Now, the game was announced just a little while ago, a few months ago, and since then we've seen Owlcat Games tease a few different things about the title as they continue to work on it. And while this certainly isn't all of the companions, they have, to date, talked about 4 specific companions and some of the circumstances around how they join you in the upcoming game. In fact, about a week ago, they actually put out a small article talking about everything they've actually covered up to this point, which I will link in the description below if you're interested. But with that out of the way, let's actually talk about some of these companions. Now, the first one is Abelard Wersarian. Might be butchering his last name, but Abelard is going to be our Seneschal. That is to say, our right-hand person who handles a lot of the day-to-day affairs that come with being a rogue trader, such as actually managing your trade empire. Abelard himself was a first officer on a cruiser void ship until he met Theodora von Valentius, which is the woman that we wind up inheriting our rogue trader title from, which is the initial plot setup for the game. After impressing Theodora, he obviously was appointed as her seneschal and had served her faithfully ever since. And it would appear that he chooses to continue to follow you afterwards. Now that brings us to our second companion, and that is Adira the Unsanctioned Psyker. So Adira, first and foremost, is a psyker, and if you're unaware, psychic powers in Warhammer 40k and the people who wield them are generally treated as a threat because their power comes from the warp, which is dangerous if not controlled. So oftentimes they're just outright killed, and in some rare cases, if they're proven that they can contain it, they're permitted to use that power specifically to benefit humanity, which means sanctioned psychers are incredibly rare, though oftentimes the power itself will just kill the person long before anybody else can, as it's been known to drive them insane. Now, for Adira specifically, she was born and raised on a distant world that was well away from the Empire for quite some time. If you're unaware, in Warhammer 40k, due to things like time and various other factors, some planets kind of fall away from the Empire only to rejoin it later, and the world Adira was born on is one such world. Now, her psychic power in particular was discerning the future through whispers of the void, and as such she played a valuable role to the rulers of her home planet. However, and assumingly part of the story in which she joins us, she renounces this title for a chance to travel the stars in your retinue. Though I am curious if we meet her on said world, or perhaps she's already traveling the stars with another rogue trader or something. Some options there, but how they describe it is a bit strange because it makes it unclear as to whether we meet her on said planet or if she's already traveling with someone else. Now, the thing with Adira that is hinted at is that, like a lot of psychers, she becomes less and less sure if she's the one in control of her thoughts or not. Basically, the concern about her slowly being driven insane that is often a problem with psychers in general, which seems to be something she is chiefly concerned with. Now, that brings us to our third companion that we know about, and this is Cassia, and she's especially interesting because she is the navigator. For those who don't know, navigators are essential in Warhammer 40k. They are very valuable people because they are required to safely traverse the warp. They are technically mutants. They have a third eye, which allows them to do so. This third eye allows them to see through the veil of the warp and focus in on the Astronomicon, as it's called, or the Emperor's Light, which allows them to, again, traverse the warp using this incredible psychic energy. Now, as such, navigators are nobles by birth. They are incredibly important to the Empire. Cassia, specifically, has lived most of her life in seclusion. As she was raised in secret on a restricted access station, she does not know her real parents, and she has never left to see the world outside or anything. All she's done is study and basically prepare for being a navigator her entire life. And it would seem that she gets assigned to be your navigator, which Owlcat describes as being a twist of fate. Now, the story that seems to be implied with Cassia is, will she be able to chase the dreams and hopes that she has, or does she become yet another cog in the machine of the Imperium of Man? That said, what I'm curious about with Cassia in particular is, again, navigators are kind of essential, which means you can't really travel without them, so what I wonder about here is if Cassia is a required companion, because it would certainly seem to be that way, at least at a glance, but that's what we know for right now. And last but not least, we have one more companion to talk about, and that is Pascal. This is our tech priest. Tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus are sort of a religious organization that worships technology and the machine god, which they call the Omnissiah. And they basically manufacture all of the technology of the Imperium of Man. And they don't just craft it in the traditional sense of, production lines. They also perform rituals and things to worship the technology that they make. Now, Pascal specifically was a Magos Explorator, which basically means that they traveled the depths of the void to basically find more technology and secrets to bring back that knowledge. Pascal has been doing this for decades. He is quite well traveled. However, in his long career as a tech priest, he discovered dissent among the other tech priests, basically, a schism. And it appears what brought him to us specifically is a cryptic message from his former mentor, which is what leads him to actually join the Rogue Trader's crew. So basically, he's hoping to find his former mentor with your help. And it's implied that his story kind of revolves around the boundaries of his faith, more or less. But that is pretty much what we've got on the initial companions that have been announced for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. But again, we know there are more coming. For instance, there's a Sister of Battle and a Space Wolf we haven't seen anything about, and there are still 1 or 2 characters in some of the key art that we have not seen explained either. But nonetheless, I thought it would be fun to go over these few that we actually have learned something about and just kind of share that with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed learning about this stuff and hearing about it. If you want to see the other things Owlcat has already teased, again, link in the description. But hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.